Good morning, everybody. It's Jane Johnston with the Briar Hill Group at Remax Camosun. I'm here at the Victoria Real Estate Show with
Hi,
Andrew
everybody.
Plank.
It's Andrew
Hi,
Plank,
Andrew.
Victoria Page. Hi, Jane. Welcome to us both, and welcome to a new week. And what are we talking about today? We're going to talk about some offer strategies and so forth.
Yeah, so I thought we'd go over the stats and then we can just, so I think we're in a shifting market, but let's go over the stats and then that will segue into that. All right?
Sounds good.
Okay. Well, actually, first of all, how was your week?
Good week. Yep, good week. And you? Not too much to
Good.
report other than we wrote a bully offer that didn't get accepted. So we're going to have to re-go again today. Round two.
I wrote an offer. It was an early offer.
Yeah.
It was an early offer, but it was not a bully offer. And it turns out it was the only offer. We left it open for 4 days. And I got on my plane. And when I arrived at my destination, the offer had been accepted 4 days later.
It just took their time. Sorry, guys, about that. I have a tale. He wasn't here until we started doing the live, and then he suddenly wants to be in the middle of it all, as cats do.
I think so.
Congratulations on that.
Yeah, it was one of those things that actually was interesting. I had actually kind of forgotten we'd even submitted it, so I was feeling chuffed about that. Okay, so why don't you do the top part?
Okay, so we're just going to talk this last week's stats and this last month's stats. We're on May 9th today, Monday, May 9th. So we have the stats for the year of 2021 for the full month of May, plus so far this month for 2022. So far this month, 176 unconditional sales versus in the full month, 149 from last year. New listings, 351 have hit the market since the first. And we've got 1,333 from the month of May in 2021. Currently, almost right on par. Active listings, 1,451 for the month of May versus last year, we had around 1,450. I think that's the stat for the end of the month. I'm not sure when they pull that number from, but currently they're pretty much on par. So we've definitely come up to a lot more inventory than we had in the past.
Yeah, so I like to look at the next graph, and I look at it almost every day. So new listings 325, and pending are 188. So our list to sale ratio is getting more into the normal zone. We're moving more into a balanced market. Price decreases are 67. So what that's saying to me is sellers and the realtors are having a chat about what's happening with their listing. And back on market, that happens when we sometimes have to take it off. Something happened. Maybe somebody had COVID and then we have to bring it back on. We're not going to expire and relist. And we have 3 of those and then sold. Those are properties that sold over the past 3 months, I would say 2 to 3 months, 228 that have closed in the past week. So expired are 16. Some of those are relists and withdrawn are 4.
Yeah, so with the expired 16, one strategy that some agents do is if they do find that they're not getting the activity they were looking for, or maybe they went to multiple offers and accepted a conditional offer, the offer fell apart, they want to relaunch the property kind of give it a new fresh face, they will actually expire it early, even though the contract might have said it expires a month from now. The seller will sign an early expiry and then they'll relist and relaunch.
Yeah, and actually I did have a listing where the tenant told us that she had COVID. And so we actually did relist it. We took it off the market and just relisted it because I didn't know when they were going to be well again. So
yeah, one of the stats we go through with our clients when we're listing a home is really we want to show them, when you put your property first on market, it's exposed to the greatest number of people that are looking. And if you have a false start for some reason, let's say you've got it all ready to go live and then you hit the live button and then suddenly there's a problem that's come up that means that you're not able to show it properly. For example, the tenants have COVID. You may want to relaunch that because if you wait the week before you start showings, it could be that a lot of buyer attention's missed. Can we go back actually to the screen you just had up?
Yep.
I just want to say, because you were saying, we're moving into more balanced market and so on and so forth, but that number of 1,451 active listings is still really low. It's definitely higher than we've had. But Leo Spaltholz from House on Victoria was doing a talk for our brokerage and was mentioning too that we're a long ways yet from where we would consider having an inventory that would be considered a truly balanced market. So although
Yeah.
we're moving towards it, we still have a ways to go before we reach that point where we have some enough inventory to really kind of hit that balance where prices stop rising, and that buyer supply and demand, buyer demand, seller supply have kind of reached equilibrium.
Well, so we're at 60%. So we're down from 120.
Yeah.
So that's significant.
It is significant, but so I just use this analogy as well. Say you're driving 120 down the road and you take it down to 60. It feels like you're going in molasses and you're going super slow, but you could be in a 30-kilometer-an-hour zone. You're still speeding. 60 is still fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. I'm just the point is it's shifting, and so if you look at other markets and if you look at history, the shift will happen quite quickly. And what happens, as we explained in a previous show, is sometimes when we're looking at properties and we want to see 10 and all of a sudden we have 10 to see, or we start seeing choice, that's when the prices will possibly level off. It looks statistically last month that they were leveling off, but agreed, we're still in a seller's market. And if we were moving the other direction where we were coming up with this would seem a lot faster. So it's just after 2 years, it just feels slow.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go.
So regarding offers and stuff like that, let's just chat. So over the past week, I've had 2 offers on properties and other agents haven't submitted because they haven't wanted to go into multiple offers. And we ended up being the only offer on the block.
Right. Yeah. We had that happen last week. I had a client write an offer, and I know there were some folks that have been asked to be kept in the loop. At least that's what the agent reported to me. But when we wrote, and we submitted the offer early because I wanted to get us first past the post, and some agents will do this. Some agents prefer to wait till the very last minute. But I calculated and figured that if someone was on the fence and waiting to hear there were no offers, they might write an offer and then we'd be competing. So put our foot in the door first, and that might just scare off other buyers who were on the fence. And that's what presumably happened. We ended up being the only person on the table, and we got the property under asking price. And a condition of financing in place as well. So, wow.
So this is a great example, actually. People want, for people who want transparency, is, Andrew submitted an offer. He's now telling us that it was under asking. The agent is not the agent's not allowed to tell what the other offers are. And so if another agent knew, if it was full transparency, another agent knew that what Andrew's offer had been, that can escalate the price.
Right.
So people have
That's
been.
An auction. You're talking about an auction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that people have been wanting to have full transparency, and they think that it will save them money if they know more. But what they don't know is that sometimes it costs them more.
I think transparency might take out some of the spikes of the really high highs and the low lows, and it'll bring in a sort of more of a middle ground in terms of pricing. But I think it'll overall bump pricing because with more information comes more security and more confidence, I think, from a buyer's perspective. And they're maybe more willing to bid that little bit more. And when if 10 people are willing to pay, $950,000 for a place, and you're bidding up against 9 people, and they're all willing to bid that, it's probably fair to pay $960 then, right? When you know that there's only one person
It
then
depends on what the strategy is, because anyway, so what happened on the weekend? The reason why this is coming out, why we're talking about this today, is because same thing that happened to Andrew happened to my client as well. And when we wrote the offer, we ended up being the only offer on the table. And so I had asked the agent, please let me know. And then we revised the offer. So, and we revised it down.
right. Right.
But we still revised it over asking. The reason why we revised it over asking was we felt that the property was undervalued when it was priced, actually. And so we priced it where we thought the market value of that property was. So we came in above asking.
This is something so there's a couple of pieces to this, and you might say, why would you pay more than these people are asking? Even as a strategy, I mean, it may be that you were never going to get it at that lower price, because some sellers do have a sort of a hammer price that they expect to get, which I think is a little unfortunate, but that seems to be the way the market is. Also, you may have some reasons for doing this is to get the seller to accept your offer more quickly, and then you don't have an intervening offer come in that's going to compete against you. So, all offers have a certain time they're open for. So if you're going to make your offer, make it, and you want the place, make it acceptable to the seller so they don't have to worry about it, think about it for a long, long time.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have an advantage also, because you're the being first past the post. Sometimes they go, well, they're,
keen. They're most
they're
interested.
keen.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
showed the most interest. These other
So
people.
how do you determine the price? That's the question.
The price that you're going to offer?
Yeah.
Well, so you look at what the market's doing. You look at what you look at what has sold in the area and comparable to that property. Condos are a little easier than houses. And then you have a discussion with your client, and you have that talk about, this is what the numbers are showing us. This is where the market appears to be going. This is what I anticipate the seller's situation is. This is what we can glean from what we've learned about the seller's motivations and timelines and so forth. So, sometimes you might be making an offer that really, really works for you. The timing works for you, everything else, and it might be worth more to you than having something that is really awkward in terms of timing, and you may not be able to get in at the time you want. You'll have to pay for movers twice if you have to get an Airbnb and so forth. So
what Andrew's saying is the closing dates for the seller and the buyer may not match up. And so sometimes there can be, generally they do match up, but sometimes there can be a difference of maybe like 2 weeks or 2 days, even, where the buyer will have to rent another property or stay in a hotel before they move in, or maybe their stuff hasn't moved yet.
Yeah, and that's probably minor in the grand scheme of price, but it is a pricing consideration. It's one of those pieces that you'll want to think about.
Yeah.
So, I want to go back to something you said, Jane. You said that when we talked about pricing and making offers, that the other agent can't tell, the listing agent can't tell any other agents what the price was. And that's not entirely true.
Yeah, unless instructed by the seller.
Okay. Yeah. I want to make that clear, because sellers may have their own ideas of strategy or what they want to do with multiple offers. And although, so we have to follow our clients' instructions. We will advise them. But if they think that they have a better strategy, for better or for worse, we may need to do that. So if we get an offer and it's low, and another person is on the fence about making an offer, the client may say, hey, you know what? Tell them what that number is. That being said, you tell them what the number is, they'll come in, like the Price is Right. They'll just go in $1 more.
Right.
Or 1,000 more, but something. But it's not going to give you that blind bid of where they're going to make that offer based on what they've looked at in the comps, what I was just referring to, like a more fair look at the pricing.
Fair. What do you mean by fair?
That was just a grab word, but really not fair. A more objective look at pricing as opposed to subjective.
Mm-hmm. So what's interesting is when we were looking at this property, So when you buy a house and it's a rural property, depending on where you are, or even like somewhere in Colwood, you may be getting a house with septic. So that is, if you're not able to do an inspection on the septic, it's a big unknown. It could be a cost of between like $20,000 and $30,000, or it could be nothing. So to buy a home that's on city sewer is, to me, for a buyer, especially first time buyer, big peace of mind. So, and what's the value of that? So that was one question. And so
Right.
other properties that we had seen that people paid more for were on septic, with original septic, that for homes that were like 40 years older.
Right.
So it was big peace of mind for me to find them a home that had no septic.
I think in the market where things still are moving fairly fast, and yes, we are seeing more selection, but good properties always sell well and sell quickly. And sometimes there is an opportunity to get in under the wire ahead of other agents, bring an offer and get it accepted. And again, that might be some timing around that. But there is something to be said, and there's a conversation to be had with clients about, if not this, what? If you're not buying this, and yes, you may have to pay a little more than asking price in order to secure it, then what else are we going to find that's going to be better than this?
Or when?
And when? Yeah, when? So what's the cost of waiting? Are we going to find? Is there a chance we're going to find something better? What's the chances of that? And if it's better, are we going to have to pay more money for it? So having well-educated clients and having a strong understanding of the market really helps to make those offers that, on the face of it, you're saying, why am I paying a little bit above asking? But you understand that by doing that, you're actually tying up this property sooner, getting an opportunity versus waiting and maybe paying an extra $50,000 for something that's not even as good.
Right. So let's just talk a bit about reserve, like
Okay, yeah,
when the contract is altered. So sometimes a seller may say, I will not accept anything less. I never ask that question of a seller because I'm always going to go for the maximum. But sometimes a seller may say that. And so what happens have you had it happen? And I've seen it happen actually, online, where in a listing, the seller did not get what they wanted.
Yeah, all the time. And so, so there is some paper. So what Jane was referring to is there's contracts in the listing contract that says, and there was actually a recent, well, this is a side note, but there was a recent court decision around this where an agent sued the seller for commission. There's a clause in the listing contract that says, essentially the intention of the realtor is to get the seller a firm and binding contract. And at
Well,
that point,
what the clause says is that if the buyer meets all the terms and conditions of the seller and the price, that the listing agent is entitled to a commission.
right.
And the reason for that is because, believe it or not, there are some people who are kind of like vanity listers who want to have their house on realtor.ca.
That's right. Yeah.
But they don't want to they don't want an offer. So what happens if and also sometimes they have a reserve price, and so they, the old adage that your house looks like a castle, and the buyer thinks it looks like a regular house, and the tax man thinks it looks like something else.
Yeah,
anyway, so
beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and everyone is going to see it differently.
yeah.
So if you're putting your home on market and listing it for, I mean, you could list your home for $1, and the market will find its level. You'll get half of Victoria going through looking at it, and maybe a portion of them are going to think they can actually buy it for that $1. But for the most part, it's going to reach the level of value. But there's a point where, the point is that nobody's going to sell their house for $1. And this is what's happening on a higher scale, is people are listing their homes for $999,000, but they don't expect to sell for that, they won't accept a penny less than 1.15 or something like that. And that's kind of unfair, maybe, because there's an advertisement that's going out that says this is the strategy that a lot of people are doing these days, and it's actually what works, but it feels a little bit unfair to the buyers.
Well, so what they do is when they advertise it, when they market it, what they're saying is that we're reviewing offers on a certain date. So by saying that, they're implying that they want more than the asking price.
They are.
And unfortunately, sometimes buyers don't perceive the value that a seller thinks their house is worth, and the offer doesn't come in. So I guess one consequence is that a buyer can then, they walk away from the offer, but also the seller doesn't have to accept it. If the seller doesn't accept it, what's the next step? So the next step could be that they relist it at a higher price.
Yeah.
They counter at a higher price.
I've seen sellers relisted lower prices afterwards, which to me is absolutely crazy, because if they didn't get their first price, why they listed at a lower price? But I've seen that strategy as well. But if you're not getting the buyers through in the first round and the floodgates haven't opened, you have a certain price you want to go to. You may have to go to a more traditional model of listing the home at a price that is more realistic, and then expect people to come and bring offers under it, or at it or under it, as opposed to hoping that it goes above.
Here's the thing. I think as a listing agent, everyone just has to have a conversation and say, here are the odds of you having this. Here are the odds of you having this. Here are the odds of you having this. What do you want to do? It's up to them. We can only inform them. But anyway, it's kind of the point is everybody have a open and transparent communication with your listing agent.
And with, in some ways, and with the public. I mean, we in agent notes see, clause 5B to, removed or what have you.
Altered.
And we know what that means. It means that the seller the listing agent and the seller have agreed to waive that clause that says, if somebody comes along with a ready, willing, and able to buy it at the listing price, and the seller refuses, that commission is earned. And by taking out that clause, you're essentially saying, you know what, we're not gonna hold the seller to that, and the seller is saying that because they don't want to have to accept that offer at asking price.
Yeah, well, they don't want to pay a commission. If they feel that they haven't done their job. Anyway, okay. I think that we
you have to run.
I do have to run. I've got some showings today. Do you have any new listings coming up?
Not right now. I've got a lot of buyers, but nothing, again, listings. So I'm ready for inventory, ready to get going. But actually, it feels like having buyers in the past has been kind of like a little harder to work with, and having listings was from a realtor perspective, was the way to go in the last couple of years. But it feels like maybe that's shifting, and buyers are moving into a time and space where they have a little more power.
I have a half duplex coming up in James Bay this week. Mm-hmm. Talking to the seller about price today. Mm-hmm. So it's actually a single family home, and it's joined to the neighboring property by a shed.
That's a good duplex.
That's a great duplex. It's on Lewis Street. It's going to be awesome.
Okay.
And I have a condo coming up in Nursery Hill, which is Thetis Lake. It's 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and it has 2 parking spaces, and it allows 2 dogs. So this is like the number 2 listing. So that'll be coming up at the end of this week.
Price point? Around 6?
Around 6.
Yeah. Okay.
And I have a house listed right now on Newton at 1.099. And that's a large lot, 10,000 square foot lot. And it is technically a 3-bedroom. So there's a large closet upstairs that could be expanded. So anyway, we're looking at offers on Wednesday, and I've had a discussion with the seller. Anyway, if you guys want more information about what's going on, how do they get in touch? Well, first of all, don't forget to subscribe.
Right. And how do people subscribe?
They can go to YouTube and follow us.
Right.
And that would be the best way.
Okay.
And then
we're broadcasting on a couple of different channels here. So
yeah.
Yep.
And you can also just go to VancouverIslandTime.com and watch the shows. They're there.
Right.
How do they reach you?
So on the banner there, Andrew Plank, 250-360-6106. Email me info@andrewplank.com or check out the website, andrewplank.com.
Okay. And if you guys actually have any ideas for topics in the future, let us know. We're always willing to change the way we discuss things. If you want to reach me, my name's Jane Johnston. My number is 250-744-0775. You can reach me at briarhillgroup@gmail.com, and you can look at these videos at VancouverIslandTime.com or visit BriarHillGroup.com for information on buying and selling. All right, you guys. I'm a little jet lagged today, so sorry, I don't have a ton of energy.
All good, Jane. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Love you, buddy.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, Jane.